In this video, I'm going to look at an HTML page, some JavaScript, and that's going to generate an SVG that makes a sort of presents a web page, an SVG that looks similar to or is inspired by this work 0 through 9, a lithograph by Jasper Johns. So we have these sort of outlines of numbers sort of overlapping. So there's the inspiration. Let's see, here's not as artistic, but here is the sort of version being generated here. Okay. So I have two SVGs. I'm going to do it twice. Let me show you the second one. So I wanted to, this becomes a little incomprehensible, it's just sort of this pattern of lines. But if you want it to be sort of a little more readable, but have the overlap, but not quite so much overlap, then you can sort of spread out the numbers. So that's what this version, that's just a slight change in the code. Okay. So here we are. Not much in the way of the head or not much style here. Here's the SVG, and it contains a rectangle to give me that gray color. I guess I could have just given the SVG itself the color. And then I have a sort of a grouping container, a G tag, and I'm applying to that sort of a transform. And I'm trying to get to the numbers, the digits, the characters in the middle. And so I am translating this container, and then I'm going to sort of dynamically in JavaScript put things into this container. And I'm in the middle, horizontally. Vertically, I'm a little low. I'm a little bit lower. The numbers were a bit high, and I just sort of played with the numbers till I was happy. And then I have my second container down here, which is much wider. So I'm still have the container. I'm still translating it. I'm not translating it as far horizontally because I'm going to be putting each letter in a different horizontal position. So I needed to leave myself room, but vertically I'm doing what I did above. Okay, so here's the JavaScript. I am using create element NS, and so I am sort of expanding the namespace. And so my first thing is to sort of give myself a URL with where I can find this expanded namespace. Then I have just a string with the characters, but of course you can, it's a variable, so you can change it to anything you want. And I'm splitting that up into a bunch of individual characters. So this, and I don't need two loops. I could do it in one loop, but just to sort of logically separate the two. This is the upper one where they are all completely overlapping. And so I'm looping over my array. I am making a text element, and which is what's inside the SVG. I'm making a text element. I'm giving it an x of 0. So this is going to end up with that sort of, I guess these all sort of work together. So I'm making my x 0, my y 0, my text anchor middle, and my alignment baseline middle. And that more or less, along with that translate, the translate, I was moving my box sort of to the middle. And then this all was sort of giving me more or less my centering, although, as I said, I had to play a little bit vertically. My letters are not filled. That's why that's giving them that transparency that you can sort of see through them. But they do have do have a stroke. And originally I just made the stroke black, and this was simpler, but I wanted it to be some shades of gray, not all just pure black. So I gave them, these are all pretty, if I have RGB and the same number, then that's a shade of gray, and this number is low. White would be 255, 255, 255. So I'm giving you a random number, less than, less than 50 here. So these are all pretty dark, but they're not quite black. So these are not black, more they are dark gray. Okay. So the fill was none. The stroke was the color. The stroke width was 4. I can the font size. I don't have a good feel for what the unit is here, if I'm being honest. So I just played with the number until I was happy. And so I ended up with 800. Made it font bold, and I gave it just some generic serif font. But if you really want to do it artistically, then play around with the font until you get what you like. The inner HTML. So all of this I had up here. My very first 0 I had before I commented it out is just sort of not there by JavaScript. And the actual character is the inner HTML in the text tag. So there it is, the inner HTML of what I'm just, the text element that I've generated is the letter, and then I append it to my grouping container, my group tag, which had the ID G Jasper. Number 2 is pretty much the same, except 2 changes. Of course, I'm putting it in a different container. That's important but trivial difference. And then the other main differences here in my X's, I am spacing them out. So I'm starting at 150 and adding 90 for every counter I. And that sort of spaced them out, as you saw in that lower one. So if you want it sort of more readable as the numbers, you might like it spaced out. If you just, as Jasper Johns did in the work I showed you, just sort of all completely overlapping. And then his has a nice sort of, I don't know, artistic, sketchy kind of quality to it. So more work would have to be done here if you wanted to try to capture that. But I just wanted to do something simple. One of the main things with the numbers was, you sort of think of them as just strokes, but they do have a stroke and a fill, so you can sort of have this sort of transparent quality that it was sort of essential to the Jasper Johns work. Okay, that's all I wanted to show you in this one. Thanks for your attention.